Hello Mason Nation and welcome back to another edition of Mason Sports Insider. In these past 2 weeks there have been a series of hires, 2 Atlantic 10 tournaments, and the biggest fire of the year. As always, I am your host, Tyler Byram. Before we jump into the Atlantic 10 tournament, the men's basketball team still had some regular season games to play. First up, revolutionary rival George Washington on senior night. Shooting only 24.1% on the night, the team did not keep pace with the Colonials and lost the game 67-51. The 2 seniors from Mason did have their final curtain call, with Vaughn Gray scoring 10 points and Corey Edwards recording 9 points and 4 assists. In the final game of the regular season at VCU, the Patriots were determined to give the Rams a run for their money. Trailing for a majority of the night, Mason was able to pull up with a single possession with less than 8 minutes to go. Leading the team was the first-time Patriots of Isaiah Jackson and Siobhan Thompson, who both netted 16 points in the night. Marquise Moore also added 10 points as the final player to reach double figures. Mason would go on to fall to the Rams 71-60, ending the regular season with a 9-21 record, 4-14 in the Atlantic 10. With their record, the Green and Gold received the 13th seed in the Atlantic 10 tournament. This set up a matchup with the 12th-seeded Fordham Rams, a rematch from last season's play-in game. This game took a similar script to every other game for the season for the Patriots. The team trailed a majority of the game. However, Mason would scrap and claw to within 2 points with 19 seconds to go. This in due part to Moore and Jackson both tallying 18 points and leading the way for Mason. Fordham would hold on by going perfect from the free throw line and advancing to the next round with a 71-65 victory. Meanwhile, the number 5 team in the tournament, Virginia Commonwealth, would go on to win the tournament, earning the automatic bid into the NCAA tournament, along with the regular season champs Davidson and the Dayton earning at-large bids, with this ending the regular season. I am sure that you've already heard that the athletic department decided to let go of head coach Paul Hewitt. In his time at the school, he recorded a 66-67 record, progressively getting worse and worse each season. Hoping to guide the torch for Mason as the team transitioned to the Atlantic 10 Conference, Hewitt managed to only record an 8-26 record in A10 play. With a move that many felt was a long time coming, George Mason now becomes a coaching destination for prospective head coaches looking to rebuild a program. A team that is already in the rebuilding process, the women's basketball team competed in the Atlantic 10 tournament, hoping to build on a strong season. The team will earn the number 10 seed and take on the number 7 St. Joseph Hawks in the second round of the tournament. Before the matchup, team leader Taylor Brown was named to the Atlantic 10 All-Second team as she averaged 21.8 points per game, which is good enough to be the 13th scorer in the NCAA. In the game against the Hawks, Taylor Brown continued her heroics by setting a single-season scoring record with 643 points, 1 point higher than the Talia Moton's mark in the 2011-2012 season. However, the offensive struggles from the regular season continued in this game as the team only shot 30% for the entire game. This was not the case, however, for Casey Davis, the freshman who made every shot she took, recording 11 points. That would tie Brown's mark to lead the team, as no other player would score in double digits. The team would eventually fall to St. Joseph's 71-43 and finish the season 13-17 overall and 5-11 in conference play. After the wrestling team finished 5th in the EWL Championships, the NCAA announced the 2015 National Championship brackets. The 2 top performers from Mason, Greg Flournoy and Jake Kettler, both received bids at their second place finishes in the EWL Championship. Both Flournoy in the 157 weight class and Kettler in the 265 will open their tournaments on Thursday with matchups against ranked opponents. Flournoy would take on a familiar competitor, Chad Walsh, who finished first in the 157 division at the EWLs, while Kettler will wrestle Evan Kunston from North Dakota State. To start the break, Paco Velez from the men's volleyball team was named AVCA Player of the Week in Mason's victory over Princeton and the New Jersey Institute of Technology. As we moved on to the lone matchup of the 2-week span, Mason fell to 11th-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes 3-1. The team fell behind early 2-0 and battled back to win the third. Radislav Popov and Velez led the team with 13 and 10 kills respectively as they tried to tie up the match in the fourth. Much to the team's chagrin, the team would fall 28-26. From this match, Graham Gresham was selected as the EIVA Defensive Player of the Week with 2 solo blocks along with 3 assisted blocks. Graham averages a block a set on the season and also has a 77% attack percentage. The team falls to 5-9 on the year and remains in the middle of the EIVA standings as they move back into conference play later next week. The men's tennis team went 3-2 over spring break, losing their second conference match of the year to the Davidson Wildcats. The team, however, was able to reel off 3 straight wins, defeating Ashford, Michigan Tech, and Florida Tech in dominating fashion. The women's team had eerily similar results, going 3-2 over the break, losing one match to Davidson 6-1, but finishing the week with 3 dominating wins to Savannah State, Ashford, and Michigan Tech. A little bit of a difference there. The men's team currently sits at 6-6 on the year, while the women's tennis team is now 9-6. The baseball team traveled to Marshall to start their spring break, falling in 2 out of 3 matchups to the Thundering Herd. The lone 6-4 victory came off of a John Williams start, who went 6 innings, allowing 3 runs on 7 hits with 4 strikeouts. The green and gold will also go on to lose to Yale 9-2 in a lone game with freshman Sal Aguilera on the mound, and then took on the Manhattan Jaspers in a 3-game series this past weekend. Winning 2 of the 3 matches, Tyler Zombra recorded his 2nd win of the season, and John Williams got his 4th as Mason advanced to a 6-9 record on the year. In a play that I believe that you will see later this week on SportsCenter, Kent Blackstone dove from third base to save a play that was going up the line, threw the ball out at first to get an out for Mason as they took on Manhattan in the final game of the series. The team, meanwhile, will jump into the Atlantic 10 play later this week to defend their Atlantic 10 title as they currently sit in the middle of the standings. The women's lacrosse team continued their opening season road trip by taking on Furman and Wagner. In the first matchup, the Patriots got off to a hot start with a 5-1 lead within the game's first 11 minutes. Mason continued to dominate, scoring 4 more runs and leading 9-3 at half. At this point in the game, Melanie Williams and Caitlin McGinn recorded 2 goals each for the Patriots, and they would both go on to score 3 total in the match. In the total, 9 players would score in this game for Mason, as they would go on to win by the score of 18-8. The next game at Wagner, once again, the green and gold opened up the scoring with Alexa McGovern, Melissa Lobacaro, and Jordan Stadanowicz scoring 2 goals each in the first half. Jacqueline Spalding would also tally a score as the Patriots led 7-3 at the break. The Seahawks, however, were not done yet and broke open the next half with 3 goals in the first 3 minutes. Battling back and forth, Mason slowly pulled back ahead and held a momentary 10-7 lead. The attack of Wagner was still not over as they would score 3 straight goals and tie it with 1 minute and 24 seconds remaining. But with 31 seconds away from a sudden death overtime period, sophomore Alexa McGovern scored her 5th goal of the match, earning the Patriots an 11-10 victory. The victories put the Patriots with a 4-2 record on the year as a result of the 6-game road trip. The team returns home against Liberty on Wednesday for their home opener before going back on the road just before Atlantic 10 play. Now moving on to some hires that will be joining the Mason family. Former Alabama head coach Todd Bramble was named the 4th head coach of the women's soccer team. Bramble, who coached in the D1 level for 14 seasons, has reached the NCAA tournament 8 times, including 2 appearances in the round of 16. He has coached at the Clemson and Alabama, most recently leading the Crimson Tide to a 10-7-3 record last season. The 1995 Mercer graduate was an all-conference goalkeeper and spent time on the professional soccer league team, the Memphis Rogues. Bramble will be replacing Diane Drake, who resigned after an 11-year career. Golf team also named George Mason alum Dan Crum an assistant coach for the upcoming season. Crum, who graduated in 2000, has coached golf the 15 years since his graduation, including leading Seton High to 7 straight conference championships. He is a best-selling author for his books on his experience in the CIA as a polygraph examiner. Well, that will end this week's edition of Mason Sports Insider. As always, here is this week's upcoming schedule. On Wednesday, the men's tennis team will make up their rescheduled game at William & Mary. The baseball team will host James Madison at 3, as the softball team hosts Princeton for a doubleheader at the same time. Also on Wednesday, the women's lacrosse team will have their home opener of the season as they take on Liberty at 4 o'clock. The outdoor track and field season will start for the team, traveling to William & Mary on Friday, followed up by a trip to VCU on Saturday. The baseball team travels to Richmond to start Atlantic 10 play on Friday, as well as a 3-game series that will run till Sunday. The women's tennis team in the meantime will host Richmond at 3:15 on Friday, and the men's volleyball team will host the University of Puerto Rico Magallanes on Friday and Saturday, both at 7 o'clock. The softball team will also host another doubleheader on Saturday against UMass starting at 12 o'clock. The men's tennis team will travel to LaSalle on Saturday and St. Joseph's on Sunday, while the weekend finishes up with the women's tennis team taking on the University of District Columbia, and the women's lacrosse team travel to Longwood at 3 o'clock. To keep track of every Mason event, you could follow my personal account at @TylerByram on Twitter, or you can be like everyone else and of course follow the athletic department's Twitter account at Mason Athletics. Well, that is all I have for you today. With the firing of Coach Hewitt, expect a new coach to be hired within the next couple of weeks. I've heard there's rumors of another Larranaga coming back to Mason. Until next time, I'm Tyler Byram. See you next time, Mason.